Hey guys, and welcome back to the Teach the Children Homeschool Resource Center podcast. I have an amazing guest on the show today, and I am super excited to introduce her here in a minute. But before I do, I just wanted to give you some updates on what's going on with the Teach the Children Resource Center. We are under contract, under lease agreement, negotiations, however you want to say it, with a spot here in the Tri-Cities. And so what does that mean? It means that this fall, we should be able to open up and host some classes for kids, some classes for adults too, homeschooling 101, maybe some sewing classes for our kids. We'll see what else comes out of the woodworks. But it also means the most exciting part to me particularly is the Resource Center will finally be opened. We'll be able to showcase curriculum and showcase workbooks that you guys all want to see before you go home and purchase those products. I know curriculum is expensive. You guys, a lot of us, myself included, spend a big portion of our homeschool budget on books and material for our children. So to be able to see it, to be able to touch it before purchase is a dream of mine. So I am so excited that this is in the works, that we finally have a place. It's not big. We're going to start small, but we're going to start this fall. So be on the lookout for that. When everything finally gets up and going, all the paperwork is signed, I'll let everybody know. It'll be on Facebook, Instagram, on the website. So hopefully, fingers crossed, here in the next few weeks, we'll be able to be open. With that being said, because Teach the Children Resource Center is a nonprofit, we rely on donors like you guys out there who have donated to the convention. But I'm also going to need some ongoing donors. If you feel led to donate anything, I'm going to be needing, it's not just monetary donations. Those are great, but I'm also going to need things like chairs for people to sit in. I'm going to need, bookshelves to put the curriculum on. Those kind of things also are things that this resource center will be in need of. And I hate asking for help, but I'm going to. This is something that is not only a dream of mine, but God has given this vision to me. And I really want to bless the community. And so I just need you guys, if all you can even do is just pray, that's amazing. That's all I can ask for too. So I am really excited about the Resource Center opening here in the next couple of weeks, and then being able to showcase. There are so many new homeschooling families in our area that just want to see curriculum and not see it online. And so if the Resource Center can get curriculum into the hands of people who want to see it, then that's awesome. And also have some classes. So we'll just have some more options here in the Tri-Cities for people to have classes and to be able to have a community. So with that all being said, if you do feel led to donate in any kind of capacity, you can reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram via the website. You can just email me at office@teachthechildren.net. Again, this is a nonprofit, so there is, if you're looking for tax write-offs, there's tax write-offs for all of this. And again, I just want to tell you guys thank you. Thank you for all of you guys who have listened to all these podcasts, who have come to the convention, who have prayed for this center, prayed for all these things that are going on in the homeschool community. So with that said, I'm super excited to introduce to you Tiffany Michaels. She is with Sparrow Homeschool, and she created the Pacific Northwest history curriculum that our homeschool co-op is going to use this fall, but it is absolutely beautiful. So before I say anything else, let's just get into it. Welcome back to the Teach the Children podcast. I'm your host, Laura Battles, and today I have on here, as mentioned before, Tiffany Michaels with Sparrow Homeschool. She was at the 2025 convention, and if you did not get to her table, you missed out. So I have her on here today to talk about her curriculum, what she has to offer us, and it really is something that here locally we would benefit from, and really across the state too, since we all, she does Washington State history. So we are going to dive on in. Welcome to the podcast, Tiffany.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're located, and then like how you got into doing what you're doing.
Okay. So I have been homeschooling my kids forever. I never planned homeschool. I kind of just fell into it. We did HomeLink when they were little, and then I'm like, oh, this is something that I can do. And then I just found that I loved it. I love the interaction with my kids, having them home, being able to just have a bigger piece of their life. And then as far as my business, Sparrow Homeschool, I really felt God was calling me to write. I've always loved writing. When I was younger, I wanted to be an author. I actually have a background in social work, which you would think is different than education, and it is. But there actually are a lot of tie-ins because I had a high focus on communication and small groups and research. So it was, every class I took, I had to do a 10, 20-page paper. And so, those kinds of things come in really handy when you're writing curriculum. So it doesn't feel overwhelming at all. I have like 30 pages of research for my curriculum, like this tiny little font. It's in the back of book 2. And so then as far as my references, I wanted to make sure that I was using high quality references. So I primarily used academic journals and state and government websites, road signs. And then, of course, my main curriculum, Pacific Northwest History, is from a Christian creation-based young earth apologetics worldview. And so my sources, of course, are there's a lot of Answers in Genesis, Institute for Creation Research, so those kinds of things.
Well, that's exciting. So I actually you reached out, I think, for the 2024 convention, but you weren't quite ready to launch yet. But you sent me over your planner, and I was like, I don't know what the rest of our curriculum is going to look like, but it's going to be, if it's as beautiful as this, it's going to be awesome. But then you were at the Spokane convention, and that's where I think I first got to see all your stuff. And I was like, our co-op needs to get onto this. So I'm really glad we were able to get our paths to connect this last year, and you were able to come down.
Yes.
And you're in the Blue Mountain area, correct?
Yeah. So we live in Dayton, Washington, which is it's about 40 minutes from Walla Walla. We're kind of in a triangle. It's like 40 minutes from Walla Walla. It's like an hour and 20 minutes to you in Tri-Cities. And then we're like an hour and 20 minutes the other direction to Lewiston. And my son actually did activities in all 3 of those towns every week this last year. So we got very familiar with all of those locations.
We go to Lewiston a lot for karate. So we drive straight through Dayton about 3-4 times a year. And I'm always like, oh, I wish I could live here.
It is a nice community.
Yeah. So now your HomeLink is not the HomeLink from the Tri-Cities, or is it the same one?
No, we actually... So I only did HomeLink for a couple of years when my kids were little. And then that program ended, and I started a co-op in Walla Walla. And I ran a really large co-op for 8 or 9 years before we moved to Dayton, and life was crazy. And we just decided to stop doing that. And I wanted to focus more on writing because it takes me a lot of time to write. So
now, did you go out and explore all the places in these also with your kids, and you guys just dove all in together to what you're doing? Oh, that's exciting.
So my Pacific Northwest history curriculum is about 500 pages of full color, front and back, tons of pictures. So for example, every page is like this one with the bright colors. The cover is, engaging and eye-catching. I love the watercolor look. And so I put that in everywhere. But then, yes, as far as when I was researching, we did do a lot of family trips. And that is one thing I love about this curriculum and about writing about the Northwest, because every place that we went to, like you can get in the car and you can go
Yes.
and you can see the place. And then for me, I actually kind of divvied up my trips between a couple close girlfriends, my husband, my family, because it would have been too much to take everyone to everything.
Yes.
And so they all got to go on a couple trips with me. In fact, one of my friends was, she's like, you said you were going to do the Olympic Peninsula with me. And I'm like, you were busy. I'm sorry.
I like how there was like friendly competition and like jealousy about where we're at in the state they get to visit.
It was kind of funny. I'm like, all right, so you get these trips and you get these trips.
That's funny. Well, I mean, Washington is a wonderful place to explore, and you don't realize it until you get going out there and driving around. And I'm like, because the Tri-Cities is so dry, so a lot of people think, oh my gosh, they either think two things: the whole state is exactly like Seattle, so what do you mean there's a desert? Or they think the whole state is the desert, and they forget about the west side. And I'm like, you guys, we love in the summer, like we're trying to figure. I say me. I'm trying to figure out how many more times I can get into the mountains, and I just love to go into the mountains all summer. And today's 106, so I'm like, who wants to be in the
It would be so much nicer to be in the mountains today. Yeah. So you're talking about the differences in the temperature. I actually talk about the rain shadow that causes that. There's two mountains. And that's the reason for the wet on the other side, and then the extreme dry here.
Yeah. And it's because even as you get even closer to Lewiston, it changes back again, because they're not as dry as we are. They're hot, but they're not as dry.
Yeah.
So, and my sister lives up in Spokane, and she comes to visit, and she's like, I don't know how you guys do it down here. They were in town this weekend, and she's like, we don't ever get this hot. I'm like, oh, that's nothing. 100 just cracking we're just, it's hot day. I'm like, wait till Monday when it's 105.
Yeah, it is hot.
So, all right. So tell me a little bit about your Pacific Northwest history curriculum. I saw you had two things. You have a K through 5, then a 6 through 8 with like a high school component onto it. So could you do all of it, or should you focus on the 6 through 8 where, like if they were to be in public school, they would be focusing on more the 6 through 8 section, but is it, tell me a little bit about all of it.
Okay. So I wrote it for 6th through 8th grade reading level because I needed it for Washington State history for my younger son. That's usually taught in 7th grade. So it is the history of Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. So it's all 3 states combined, which is why it's called the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
So my main curriculum, I used it in a co-op in my home. I had 12 to 15 kids come to my home every week for 2 years. And we did this curriculum together. I gave them the reading to do at home, and then they came to my house. I did an hour overview about what the chapter was about, and then we did a hands-on activity. And it worked fantastic. It worked so well for co-ops. And actually I had co-ops in mind when I wrote it. And that's actually the reason it's only 24 chapters. It ended up being 25. And I rearranged and put things in different places to bring it back to 24, because I'm like, a co-op could do that if they meet 12 weeks and then 12 weeks, there's 24, or some co-ops could do 8 weeks, and then like another half year, another 8 weeks. So it lends itself really well to that.
Cool.
So then as far as your question, we recommend that for our main curriculum, families with 6th graders and up, if they have an older child, we recommend just get the main set. You can do it with all of your kids.
Okay.
The reason we added elementary was because the chapters are like 20 pages long. And that's kind of overwhelming, and some of the concepts go over their heads, and it's a little bit older. But a lot of our families at conferences last year, they're like, I love this. I want this for my littles. And so I'm like, you know what? We can do that. And so the elementary set is basically book 1 of my main set.
Okay.
But it's like 70% of book 1. So it's most of it, but not quite all of it. I left out some of like the heavier content. Like in my main set, I talk about New Age shamanism. I talk about like the difference between like the true religion of David Thompson and the profitable religion of George Simpson, like
Okay.
some things like that, you know, are not in the younger one. And the younger one is by lesson. So there's
Okay.
only 2 or 3 pages per lesson, and there's, you know, 120 lessons. So they're just little chunks. It would take like 10 to 15 minutes a day. So
Okay.
it makes it much easier for families with younger kids. So what
Well,
I've been saying,
do both at the same time too. So if you got some of both, they could follow along with the older kids, but not have to sit for quite as long, but still get the content.
so we have found that most of the time the kids do okay with the reading, the younger kids. So because the elementary set, the book is basically book 1 of the main set, they can use the younger workbooks with our main set.
Perfect.
Like, it doesn't go perfectly, but I do have a schedule that shows what you would do for elementary as they're listening. And so for elementary, they're going to have 1 to 3 pages that they can color every day while they're listening. And then there's a really short worksheet that they can do.
Oh, wow. Well, that's great for large families, you know, because a lot of homeschool families are huge. I always joke that I just have 3. So, and people are always like, you homeschool when you say just have 3, don't you? And I'm like, oh yeah, totally. Because our homeschool, some of the families have 9 or 10. So they need something that can go through all the ages. So this is perfect. They can do that.
And you mentioned high school. So there is enough content for high school. The reading level is, like I said, 6th through 8th, but the content itself is really good and it is very thorough. And so for high school, I recommend, it depends on the high schooler. So high schoolers that love to write, we have an essays and quizzes add-on. And they can just use that one and write a lot of essays and do the quizzes. The essays, though, we have basic, standard, and advanced essays. And so the basic is 1 paragraph. Standard is a 5-paragraph paper, and advanced is like more advanced, like character analysis, compare, contrast, like so specific types of essays. And so there's a lot of different levels for the writing prompts in there. So standard kids like 9th and 10th graders, they would want the regular workbook and to do like 2 or 3, 4 essays and some tests. And they could absolutely do high school credit.
Oh, cool. Now, you said you're talking about high school credit. This isn't one that we have to have on our transcript. However, most colleges want to see that you've done Washington State history.
Washington State history is a required subject on your transcript.
Perfect.
But since it's usually taught in 7th grade, it's considered a required non-credit class. So, but it still has to be on a high school transcript. For families who want their transcripts to look like a normal transcript or a transcript that a high schooler would have. You know, of course, as homeschoolers, we don't have to, you know, have those things on a transcript, but colleges do expect to see that on there, like you mentioned.
Yeah. Do you notice that like in-state colleges look for that more so than out-of-state, or have you noticed anything?
I'm not really sure. I haven't actually looked into that. I just knew for me, I didn't know what my kids were going to be doing. And so I'm like, I want to make sure that we do this. And then when I heard about the college thing that they're looking for it, I'm like, you know, it's just going to be easiest to do this, and let's do it in an interesting way.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, our co-op is doing your thing next year. And a lot of us parents are excited because now we can go to the co-op, get it done, come home and supplement, like, you know, a little bit at home. But it's just like, this is awesome. It's one less thing that I have to try to figure out how to do at home. I just know every co-op day we're going to do it at co-op and fit it in.
Well, there is a lot of reading, so I do recommend to co-ops that the families do the reading at home, but it doesn't take that long. I mean, if you were try to get to do all the reading at co-op, it would take a really long time. Yeah.
So, our classes are only like, I think 50 minutes, so we definitely don't have enough time to read and then
So what I would recommend is doing the hands-on activity there. You would have enough time to finish that. But that is nice because then you don't have to do the messy stuff at home.
You mean all the glitter and all the glue and all that other stuff?
So I don't do glitter. So
Okay.
that is one thing families can be happy about. But there is some, there's a lot of experiments. So at the
Oh.
beginning, there's
Mhm.
like Play-Doh layers of the earth, and there's graham
Um,
cracker plate tectonics, and of course your
okay.
volcano
Yeah.
experiments. There's a canyon carving with
Okay.
cornmeal. So there's a lot of science as well. There's a lot of earth science in it. And
Okay.
so those are the things that they would do at co-op. And then there's
Perfect.
later on, there's a lot of art.
Okay. Well, those are more fun anyways to do with friends
Mhm.
and in a
Yes,
bigger group setting than just doing it at home one-on-one. So those are
right.
perfect co-op activities.
Yeah. And actually, as you mentioned that, so we just started going back to conferences that we went to last year, and it's been so fun to like get feedback from
Mm-hmm.
families. And our feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. Like almost
Okay.
everyone we've talked to, they're like, this was our favorite thing. And then they brought their friends to our booth this year. They're like, you
Oh.
have to get this. But one thing we did notice is
Mhm.
if they weren't doing it with other friends or as a group, they
Mhm.
often didn't do the hands-on. The
Oh.
hands-on was something that they did more as a group.
Well, that's an interesting, that's good feedback to have that, that,
Mhm.
focus
Yeah.
on this in the group and do the reading at home. And
Hmm.
that's cool. So now are you all by yourself in this curriculum, or you said you had friends go with you, but you say did you do it all, or do you have a team to help you?
So I did all the writing,
Okay.
but my friend Tima goes with me to probably 3/4 of my conferences,
Okay.
and she also does the the hands-on. And I meant to have some here with me to show you. She does, so for our hands-on activities, we have like these
Oh.
cutouts. So the
Mm-hmm.
kids do like the background art, and then when they're done with the art, they add the cutouts to it.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
really love that because then
Mm.
kids are starting to learn how to do art.
Yeah.
Um, but oftentimes, especially the younger kids, their art doesn't always look the greatest, and it's discouraging. And
Yes.
so with this, they get like actual some actual art skills that they're starting to build, and then you throw a cutout on it, and it looks
Okay.
amazing.
Cool.
And so
But
she does those.
that she does those.
She does, and she
Okay.
also does maps. We have.
Oh, okay.
I was just thinking, do I have a map? I don't think I have a map within reach, but she has these amazing wooden maps that are
Mm.
lesson trackers. And so
Oh, cool.
at the end of there's 24 pins that go with the 24 chapters. And at the end of every chapter, there's a spot to put the pin of somewhere that was
Okay.
talked about that week, which is
That's
really fun.
awesome. Well,
Hmm.
this is exciting. I am super excited to get into it this fall. I don't know if my kids are, but the excitement starts with, us adults. So if we're excited about something, the kids are more excited about it, and it just makes it that much easier to teach it when everybody's
Hmm.
excited. And then just,
Right.
um so we've already talked about, like, budgets, and you can use it for a whole family. Are there any
Mhm.
supplemental books that you would recommend to go along with this that you could read on the side
Mhm.
that are for this Pacific Northwest?
Right. So we do have 8 books that we
Mm.
recommend families read with it if they want to add in more reading.
Okay.
Uh, 4 of the books, unfortunately, are out of print. You can only get them on Kindle, but they're only $2
Oh.
a piece, and they're so good. It's about um, a Chinook family where the
Mm.
dad, I believe he's in the fur trade, and he's married a Chinook wife. And so they're
Mhm.
mixed race children. And it's about them,
Mm.
and they're like really good. They're Christian. They have
Mm.
really good character building. Like the
Mhm.
siblings are always helping each other and have each
Okay.
other's backs. Like the families are like very positive.
Okay.
And so there's that set. And then we have another set of 4, I think during the Oregon Trail, we recommend
Mm.
Bound for Oregon. And then
Okay.
there's one for Lewis and Clark. There's one for when we're talking about the flight of the Nez Perce, Thunder
Mm.
Rolling on the Mountains. And then there's one more. And we have a reading schedule in the
Okay.
front of the student workbook for families who want to read those along with.
Oh, cool. Do you also recommend field trips then, in there?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes. So a lot of these locations are places that you can go to. It's within a
Mm.
day's drive, and there's
Mm.
so many cool places, in the Pacific
Oh
Northwest.
my gosh. Yeah. Want to take my kids to, for one, where Lewis and Clark finally got to the Columbia River, to that point, both the
Mm-hmm.
Oregon and the Washington side. but I also
Mhm.
want to take them up to the peninsula coast up there. I mean, it's where
Mhm.
Twilight was filmed and all that, but more so the very tip of the peninsula.
Cape Flattery.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved that one.
Mhm.
The it takes a long time to get up to the point, so just plan for that. You
Okay.
have to drive slow, and so
Mhm.
it takes much longer than I thought it would on a map. But once
Okay.
you get up there, it's
Mhm.
so neat. Like you go like a mile in on these boardwalks to get to the point,
Oh,
and
cool.
that was really neat.
Yeah.
Also, if you're going up in that area,
Mhm.
there's a there the Ozette archaeological site. So there's a
Oh,
museum there that you don't want to miss.
okay.
Unfortunately, I couldn't take pictures there. They don't let you take pictures
Oh,
of
okay.
their items. But one of the Maka tribes was completely covered in a
Mhm.
mudslide in probably
Oh,
the 17 or 1800s.
okay.
And so when they discovered that site, they have like almost a complete village. So they know a lot about those
Wow.
people. And
Okay.
those artifacts are displayed at that museum. So
Cool. So that's in that same area. Oh,
yes.
okay. Wonderful. I'll have to mention, I know our co-op wants to do like some field trips and then recommend like if your family wants to, this is other places you can go that are
Mhm.
a little bit more than just like a field trip day. So
Mhm.
I'm excited to get into that.
My home field trip, we did a final trip at the end of the year
Mm.
to Mount St. Helens. We did one of their
Mm.
creation tours, and that
Okay.
was really fun. And
Fun.
we went to the Bonneville Dam and did a tour there on the way. And we went to the Columbia Gorge field trip, or the museum in the Dalles, I believe.
Is it the Mary Hill Museum?
Nope,
You
that
didn't do
one
that?
was a different one, and we didn't make it to
Okay.
that one.
Okay. Yeah, I like to. I took my kids to the Stonehenge one time,
Yeah.
and it was like early spring, and the winds were just horrible. And they were standing up there, and they're like, "This is great, but I don't want to be blown away." And I'm like, "Yeah, me neither." So let's get back in
Yeah.
the car.
Hmm.
But cool. There are just so many wonderful places in the Pacific Northwest, not just
There are.
Washington, Oregon, and Idaho.
Hmm.
Um, so I see that you also do speaking engagements. You came on the podcast, but you also are doing some speaking engagements. Which ones are you doing here in the upcoming weeks or months?
I just have one more this summer.
Okay.
I will be doing a series of 8 workshops at Pineal Ranch. That's in Okanagan, so it's which I had to look that up on a map the first time I heard of it. So it's kind of halfway between like Spokane and Seattle. So you go north and
Okay.
it's there.
Hmm. Hmm.
But they have a place right on the Columbia River.
Ooh, pretty.
And so they do family camps there. They're apologetics
Mhm.
based family
Yep.
camps. And so you go for the whole weekend with your family. There's workshops that you do, and there's also like the camp activities. So they have like
Okay.
kayaking and gaga ball and like lawn games and like
Okay.
archery and like a lot of fun activities in the afternoons. And
Fun.
so I'll be doing that on Labor Day weekend
Okay.
this year.
One of the
Hmm.
other vendors at the convention, I think, does some classes
Yes,
up there. Northwest,
Northwest
yes, geology.
geology. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
he does some up there too. That's why when you
Mhm.
said that, I was like, wow, I didn't, this is a new camp I've never heard of. And then two people who come to the convention are
Mhm.
going there. So
Mhm.
that's exciting. Do you talk
Mhm.
to co-ops also? Would you go to co-ops and talk, give
I
lectures?
haven't yet because we're relatively new, but sure, I could
Okay.
absolutely do that. Any one of my chapters I have activities for, and I could easily do an hour presentation.
Okay, good. It's
Mhm.
good things to know for co-ops if they want someone to come in as a guest speaker to talk about
Mhm.
something that maybe they're not as knowledgeable about, but you
Mhm.
have the knowledge and you can come in and speak to the co-op.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's exciting. Now, so what is something now, how many years have you been homeschooling?
Oh, well, my oldest is 19 and I
Okay.
started in kindergarten with him. My youngest is
Okay.
15. So 20
20
years.
years? Okay, so what is something you would tell either your newbies, if you could go back and tell your newbie self or a newbie homeschooling family, what would be something you'd go back and tell them?
If they have littles, I would say throw out the box curriculum for
Mhm.
kindergarten, first grade, even
Yes.
second grade. You don't need all of
Yes.
that. Focus more on delight learning, like letting them play and explore and doing things that they enjoy. At that
Mm-hmm.
age, they're not going to remember anything. Like
Yep.
when my kid was kindergarten, first grade, we bought all the things and we did
Mm-hmm.
all the things and we did all the the cool, like hands-on activities. We did all the reading. Like it was exhausting.
Yes.
And my kid doesn't remember any of it. So honestly, at that age, they need to learn to read. So lots of reading. They
Yep.
need math, so counting, adding and subtracting. Do it through games.
Yes.
Our favorite game was called Sum Swamp, and it was super great. My kids
Okay.
learned adding and subtracting like just as well from that as they did from workshop or worksheets and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then for history, my kids remember the historical novels that we read.
That's cool.
Yeah. And
We do a
the
lot
science.
of reading with ours, and a lot of them is historical novels. And so that's good to know that they'll remember those.
They will. Yeah. So I would say in the younger grades, like you don't need to do a lot. And I wish I had thought about that sooner. And like for Washington State, we don't have to keep attendance. I always did because I'm super organized and I want to make sure we're doing like all the things. And then about halfway through their growing up, I kind of threw that aside and I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I tied to a schedule? Like just have more fun with your kids. That's why you're homeschooling.
Well, I can see behind you, you have tons of books. So you guys
do.
you must prioritize reading. We are the same. My kids are always like, why do you need another bookshelf? I'm like, because our books are full and they're overflowing and you guys have them everywhere and we need to put them in a spot. But I always see people posting, my kid is 5. What should I be doing with them? And I'm like, you should be out playing. That's the only thing that 5-year-old needs to be doing is playing, taking naps, going to museums, go on these drives, go see some of these things. They'll remember the fun drives. I mean, my youngest, he still remembers where we go driving. Mom, I think we've gone here before. I don't remember why, but I remember going down this road and I'm like, you're right. I don't know how you remember that, but he just remembers being in a car and going on these fun adventures. And so I always think, don't get curriculum. I mean, go just throw it away and have fun. And, that's more what they're going to remember anyways.
It is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, is there anything you would like to say before we wrap it up here about your curriculum or just in homeschooling in general?
I actually did just put out a new unit that I'm pretty excited about.
Ooh, go ahead, tell about that.
It is a mini unit, so it's shorter than my main set. It's only 100 pages, and it is called Goal Setting and Life Lessons from a Wandering Artist. And I had so much fun writing this. So one of the artists that I love art a lot.
Okay.
And so my curriculum, there is art through the whole thing. So I do artist biographies. And so one of the artists that I used a lot was Paul Kane. He traveled to the Northwest because he wanted to record the cultures and customs of the indigenous peoples before their way of life was completely ended, as they knew it. And so I didn't write a lot of his stories in my main set, but I did a session or one of my speaking engagements at the Spokane Homeschool Convention was about Paul Kane. And so I had so much fun with that. And the people who came to that one, they seemed to really enjoy it that I'm like, I'm going to make a mini unit on this. There were just a lot of tie-ins from his life, like in things that we can benefit from today. Like he knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to paint the Native people. He had no idea how to do that. And so he just set out. Like he made a goal and he just began. And he gets like part way there. Right. And I'm like, that's huge. Get outside your comfort zone, your comfort zone. Don't listen to all those negative messages. Oh, you can't do this. You don't know what you're doing. He just went.
Okay.
But once he got a little ways, he realized, or he interacted with one of the chief factors there for Hudson's Bay Company. And the chief factor is like, you cannot go all the way west by yourself. Like it's dangerous. You don't know the way. You need to do this properly. So here, meet with George Simpson. He was the head of Hudson's Bay Company and go with them. And so Paul Kane listened to advice
Okay.
another thing like that's
Yeah.
important for success.
Yes.
So he went home. He had made a lot of field sketches. He turned the field sketches that he had of the people along Hudson's Bay, or one of the Great Lakes, actually. So he
Okay.
turned those into oil paintings. He, again,
Mhm.
got outside his comfort zone, made the appointment to go meet with George Simpson, showed
Right.
him what he had and what he wanted to do, and got approval to go with them. And
Cool.
yeah, and so just like lots of little things like that. And then through his whole journey, when he started out, he missed the boat.
After all that.
He missed the boat. I mean, it wasn't his fault. The boat left early.
Okay.
But
Okay.
then he had to make a choice, like, do I go home and forget the whole thing, or do I try to catch up?
Right.
And so he worked really hard to try to catch up, and he missed the boat again and again and again. And so finally, when he finally caught up, like they were a huge chunk of the way, and just his perseverance.
Okay.
I just loved that. And
Yes.
just throughout his story, there are so many great tie-ins for communication and resilience and handling suffering. Like
Yeah.
how do we get through really hard times? And I worked that into this curriculum, and I'm excited
Cool.
about it.
So is that on your website already? I didn't.
Mhm.
Okay.
It is.
I must have just
So
missed it yesterday when I was browsing through.
yeah, it is brand new.
Mhm.
We first had it at the Boise Homeschool Conference that we just finished. So
Oh,
I finished it last Wednesday night.
wow. It is brand new.
It is.
Brand new.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, so you can find this on your website. And then on
Mm-hmm.
your website is also where you can get your curriculum.
Yes.
All your planners are on your website. I saw that.
Mm-hmm.
Those are gorgeous. They have student planners up to parent planners. So you can
Mm-hmm.
get anything in between. Um, and then what else did I see on your website? Oh, when the Teach the Children's Resource Center opens here, hopefully in the next couple of months, you will be able to potentially get it through the Resource Center.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of ways to get this curriculum, to get these planners, to get this new mini series. And yeah, go check out the website. Her website is beautiful also. So I mean, I always look at a good website and I'm like, hers is very beautiful. I could just sit here and look at these all day. So I can tell you appreciate art just by the pictures you put in there and what's on your website. So
Beauty is important. And my
yeah.
husband, he goes to quite a few of my conferences with
Mm.
me. And when he first started going with me, he was just blown away by all the women who are like, it's so beautiful.
Yes.
And he's like, apparently beauty is important. And we're like, yes, it is. Like, if it doesn't bring me joy, I don't want to use it.
Yes. It's
So,
it's funny how God has wired men and women different, because men are usually a lot more, I mean generalities here, much more practical. Is it functional?
mhm.
Can I get it the point across just by seeing the product? As women
Yes.
are, but it has to also be beautiful and we have to bring it home and we have to store it and people have to see it. And my kids seem to be, Mommy, I want to see this beautiful thing.
Mhm.
My husband's like, just read the book. And I'm like, but no, it has to be engaging. The book has to be
Mhm.
wonderful looking. And
Yes.
so,
Mhm. So when you have amazing content along
yes,
with beauty, like it's so much more engaging.
yes, I agree. And that's what your curriculum has. And I was blown away the first time I saw it. I was like, this is going to go somewhere because this is beautiful and it's just thick with information and knowledge and it's what our kids need.
Mhm.
So, well, thank you for writing it. I am excited because it was one of those classes that I was like, well, I can try to piecemeal together Washington State
Mhm.
history, but if someone wants to do it, then I would take it from them so I don't have to figure out where to go and what to do. So,
Mhm.
thank
Right.
you.
Well, that was actually why I wrote it. For my older son, because it is a required course.
Mhm.
For my older son, I couldn't find anything. I did eventually find an old black and white Christian textbook that I used. It was fine,
Yeah.
but for my younger son, I'm like, there is no way I'm getting him through that book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and sadly, my kid is one of the only ones that doesn't like my curriculum. So part of it is like, well, Mom, I've lived it.
Right?
Been to all the places. I've seen all the canyons and the waterfalls and the road signs. Like, I'm done.
It
So
was good. down the
Dad
road,
always
he
makes
will thank you, and he will thank you for showing him how you did the hard thing so that he can say, well, if mom can do the hard stuff, I can do the hard stuff too.
I
And I
hope
was
so.
talking to someone last couple weeks ago about this. Our parents, her and I's parents, started a nonprofit, and now her and I are both out doing nonprofit work. And I'm like, it's a generational thing. They showed us how to do it, and we are doing it, and we're showing our children how to do it, and that's just how it starts. So he may not appreciate it now, but he will one day.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on. If you guys want to find Tiffany's stuff, it is at sparrowhomeschool.com. And you're on Facebook. Are you on Instagram also?
I'm not. I know that I need to. I just haven't yet.
That's okay. So Facebook, sparrowhomeschool.com again. You can find all her stuff and all her information where she's going to be at this summer and those workshops. And you can find all the curriculum on there. So again, thank you, Tiffany, for coming on. It was such a pleasure talking with you and about your stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time.